Red Sox are once again the worst team in the AL East. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and we really haven't been focusing on what's going on the field lately. It's because everything that's happening off the field has much bigger implications on the future of the Red Sox than what's going on the field right now. But on the field, things have not been going well for the Red Sox. Over their last weekend series, the Red Sox got swept by the Toronto Blue Jays. That's now officially 4 losses in a row. They are just 2-8 in their last 10 games. They are officially under 500 by 2 games for the first time since June. And on top of that, like this video stating in the title and the thumbnail and in the intro of this video, the Red Sox are back in the basement of the AL East. And I think surprisingly in this series, based on everything that's happened over the last couple of weeks, the offense was truly the biggest problem. This was one of the worst offensive series we've seen from the Red Sox in a long time. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to break down this latest series. We're going to talk about why you should care that the Red Sox aren't doing well right now, what this means for 2024, and what this means for the offseason. And we're going to be talking about what are the odds the Red Sox finish the year in last place. What are the chances they even get to 500 on this season? That's what we're talking about today. But before we get into that, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Like we mentioned, offensively, this series was an absolute disaster. And I say that because there's really only 2 people we can even highlight in this series recap. And that's because only 2 people in this entire series for the Boston Red Sox offensively drove in runs. The first of those guys was Rafael Devers, who ended up with 3 RBIs for the Sox on 2 different home runs, both of them to the opposite field, which is really nice to see Rafael Devers go opposite field for home runs. I feel like we haven't seen that much this year. His last one looked like he didn't even mean to hit it. He's just so good it went out of the ballpark. Rafi's down year this year is officially looking like 33 home runs, 98 RBIs, and a 132 OPS plus. If that's a down year for Rafael Devers, this next 10-year contract is going to be an absolute joy to watch, right? Rafael Devers on a down year is still 32% more productive than the average hitter in Major League Baseball, and he's still good for 30 plus home runs. That is absolutely incredible. Watching Rafi finish out this year strong is going to be something that's really important to start 2024, right? Get his head wrapped around being the leader, get his head wrapped around being the big guy in this lineup. Having Rafael Devers finish this year strong could have big implications for 2024. The other guy in this series that drove in runs was one Pablo Reyes. Pablo Reyes had 2 singular hits in this series, and both of them somehow were really clutch singles. They both came in later innings, one of them in the 7th inning of the last game and one in the 12th inning of the second game. Pablo is going to be a really interesting case over this offseason. Right now, you don't really have a solution to second base for the 2024 season. You do have 3 guys on this team who could play second base, right? You've got Luis Urias, you've got Pablo Reyes, and you've got Ceddanne Rafaela. So it's going to be interesting kind of how the Red Sox go about mixing and matching and trying to figure out who could play second base, because the free agent market isn't exactly fantastic for middle infield. And unless you want to do a sort of big trade here, which I think should be focused on pitching, you're probably going to end up with some combination of these guys at second base in 2024. But either way, Pablo Reyes has done a really great job of putting together a surprisingly good season in terms of how he was projected to be on this Red Sox team. But either way, another really clutch series for Pablo Reyes, and he's been a ton of fun to watch this year. Outside of those 2, like I said, the only 2 guys in this series, not game, series, to have an RBI were Pablo Reyes and Rafael Devers. Outside of those guys, it was abysmal to watch. The Red Sox went just 3 for 33 with runners in scoring position, which is just an 0.90 average with runners in scoring position. They also had 26 men left on base. We talked about it in our Can the Red Sox Finish Above 500 video, but there wasn't a lot of time left in this season, and we know that this Red Sox team can get cyclical with their offense, right? They go through ups, they go through downs, and it's averaged out to be a top 10 offense in Major League Baseball, but there are ebbs and flows, right? And right now, you are in a valley instead of a peak, a really, really low valley, and it's driven them below 500 for the first time since June, right? This is strictly on the offense, and my fear is that this team is just flat out giving up offensively. And I know, does it matter? No, it doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter if you're in fourth place, doesn't matter if you're in fifth place, doesn't matter if you're above 500 or below 500. You are a uncompetitive team in the month of September, and that sucks. But for fans like you, for fans like me who are still watching these games, we're just waiting for them to die. They might as well die with a little dignity. And what we saw over this last 3 games was not a dignified death, right? This was an absolute put down by the Toronto Blue Jays. And it's not like the Blue Jays were just shutting the Red Sox down. They were getting on base, they were getting hits, they were getting walks, but they just couldn't get that situational hitting, which has been an issue all year. Going into 2024, you need to fix that somehow. You need to work with your hitting staff, you need to work with your players, and you need to figure out a way to get better at situational hitting, because it felt like this entire series, and honestly, for most of this year as well, there were a lot of double plays with men in scoring position. There were a lot of 3 strikeouts in a row with men in scoring position, right? There wasn't a ton of situational hitting, and that was extremely justified in this series. So something to look forward to in 2024 as to whether or not the Red Sox can figure out their situational hitting. But in this series, this was one of the worst offensive series we've seen from the Red Sox all year. It honestly may have been the worst one yet. I think kind of surprisingly, based on the last couple of weeks, the pitching, on the other hand, was absolutely fantastic. Brayan Bello had a great start in game 1. He ended up going 6 innings, allowing 3 earned runs on 4 hits. He struck out a career-high 10 batters. Bello had 1 bad pitch to Vladdy Jr. Outside of that, he absolutely dominated the Blue Jays. This has kind of been the theme of Bello's starts over the last few starts, right? 5 out of 6 of his innings, or 4 out of 5 of his innings, have been absolutely dominant. Then he has 1 inning where he allows 3 runs. His last 3 starts, he has 3 earned, and a lot of them coming off of 3-run home runs, right? He's allowing basically 1 home run a game right now, a little bit over 1 home run a game. If Bello can limit his home runs and limit hitters hitting home runs off of him, he could be an extremely dominant pitcher, and I think that's kind of where we're going with Brayan Bello. In all honesty, there was a lot of great things to take out of this Bello start. His slider looks absolutely fantastic, which was exactly what we needed from Bello, right? Because for a long time in this season, Bello was essentially a 2-pitch pitcher: sinker, changeup, and guys realized that if I just wait on the cutter or the slider, I can absolutely punish it. That's not really the case anymore, and Bello making those in-season adjustments is a really, really great sign for things to come. Chris Sale also had a really great start in this series. He went 6 innings, allowing 1 run on 2 hits and struck out 10. What was most impressive about this outing from Chris is that his velo is completely gone, right? He was sitting very low 90s with his fastball, sometimes even high 80s with his fastball, but he was still able to keep hitters off balance with his slider and his changeup. His velo dropping is a concern for sure, but flat out, Chris Sale is a warrior, right? The fact that he knew going into the start that he didn't have his velo and still somehow managed to come in and be able to strike out 10 batters, bring a no-hitter through 3 or 4 innings, and really just flat out dominate the Blue Jays shows just how good of pitching Chris Sale is when he's healthy, even without his velocity. So really great sign from Chris Sale, but either way, that velo is definitely something to keep an eye on. To finish out this series, Nick Pivetta got the ball, and he went 6 1/3 innings, allowing 2 earned runs on 4 hits while striking out 6. Again, Pivetta gave the Red Sox a really great start. All 3 of these starters did, right? They gave him a legitimate chance to stay in this game. He pitched 91 pitches into the 7th inning, and it was fun to watch Nick Pivetta on the mound here. I don't know where Nick Pivetta fits into the 2024 fabric here, what he looks like. Is he going to be a starter? Is he going to be a reliever? Is he going to be in a hybrid role? But it's nice to see Nick Pivetta finish out this year strong. I think, honestly, this was one of his best starts of the entire 2023 season. As for the bullpen, they did their job, and they did their job really well. John Schreiber and Garrett Whitlock were the only 2 people in this entire series to give up 1 earned run. Everyone else was able to shut the Blue Jays down, and honestly, that's the first time we could say that over the last month and a half. And I think the biggest difference here is that all 3 of your starters were able to go 6 or more innings. It's amazing what happens when your starters can get you deep into games and have your bullpen only be guys who can go 1, 2, 3 innings without having to have a guy go 4, go 3, go 3.5. half innings, right? The pitch, it ends up being a lot better overall when your starters can go deep into games. That's exactly what we saw in this series. I know that's not really a shock to anyone, but either way, the bullpen was absolutely fantastic, even without Kenley Jansen, who's currently on the IL with COVID, right? It's really, really impressive what this bullpen was able to do against a pretty good lineup in the Toronto Blue Jays. But overall, I think, again, the biggest highlight to me of this series was what the pitching was able to do. And I think that was highlighted by the fact that you got 3 really solid starts in a row, which is the first time this has happened all year. I think it's genuinely the first time this has happened all season. All 3 of your starters are able to go 6 innings or more. And again, it's amazing what can happen when they are able to do that. And that's something I think the Red Sox need to focus on going into 2024, right? Getting starters who can go deeper into games. It saves your bullpen. It allows you to manage your bullpen much better than if you were to have to figure out the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, which is what we've been seeing over the last few series. So again, pitching, obviously the biggest positive takeaway of this entire series. I think at this point, it doesn't really matter what position the Red Sox are in, right? It doesn't matter if they're in 4th. It doesn't matter if they're in 5th place. It doesn't matter whether or not the Red Sox are in the basement or one spot above the basement, because ultimately, right, the biggest thing we care about is that they are playing completely uncompetitive games in the month of September. And like we talked about with this offense, right, we're all just sort of waiting for this season to die, waiting for the season to end, trying to figure out going into 2024, one, who's going to be at the helm of this ship? What's the philosophy of the ownership? What's the philosophy of the new GM or the new CBO or whatever the hell they want their title to be, right? What is that philosophy? And to me, that's the bigger question going forward. But either way, this was an absolutely brutal series for the Boston Red Sox. And all we wanted them to do was die with a little bit of dignity. And I don't know if that's going to happen right now, right? I talked about in my video again, whether or not the Red Sox can even finish above 500, that I still think there's a 60% chance that the Red Sox finish above 500. I don't know if it's there anymore. I might be on the 40 side of this because of the way the Red Sox are playing, right? There's 12 games left of this season, and honestly, all I want is just a little bit of competitive baseball. I don't care if they win or lose anymore, because at the end of the day, right, it does not matter. This is the end of the Heimblum era. You've got a ton of different stuff changing over this offseason, and it's going to be a lot more interesting to talk about what's going to happen over this offseason than what's been happening on the field. But at the end of the day, right, we're still going to be watching these games for those of you who are still watching, and it's just absolutely brutal to see that the Red Sox offense feels like they've completely given up. It feels like they've completely just checked out of this entire season mentally, and it sucks, right? It sucks to watch that type of baseball. So hopefully they could die with a little bit of dignity over these next couple of games. They've got 12 games left. Can they get above 500? All it would take would be to winning 8 out of their last 12 games. I don't know if that's humanly possible, but that's where we're at right now, and it is absolutely frustrating as a fan, as a commentator, as everything to watch this team right now. And honestly, I'm at the point where I just simply cannot wait for this 2024 offseason to start. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what did you think of this miserable series? What do you think about the offense? What do you think about the defense? What do you think about the pitching? Let me know all your thoughts on the latest Red Sox series in the comment section down below. And also, let me know what you think about its impacts on 2024. Is there anything you could pull out of this series to say, okay, this was going well, this is something they need to work on? What is your opinion about the long-term success of the Red Sox based on this series? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.